So guys, we are back on the silver Sambar today. I went ahead and did an electrical tune-up, the ignition tune-up, new spark plugs, new wires, new distributor cap, rotor button, and new coil wire, and the truck runs so much better. If you remember back, this was a no start. It came in with fuel fouled plugs, and the plugs were really bad, really worn, and cracked, and not firing well. We've got that issue out of the way. The truck runs really well now. Also, back in that video, we found out that the engine had a noise. It sounded like a knocking noise. Well, I have run the engine. It runs very quiet at idle. You rev it up when it's cold, no noise. Once it gets up to operational temperature, you start hearing a knocking sound, and I believe it is either cylinder 1 or cylinder 2's rod bearing. Now, I looked at the engine oil in this truck, and it is super dark. It looks like diesel oil. A lot of these trucks just are not properly maintained, so it might be a symptom of neglect. If there is a rod bearing issue, it's very slight because it's not knocking at idle. It's only knocking at temperature at higher RPM, about 5,000 RPM or so. So we're gonna go ahead and drain the engine oil once it gets up to temperature and gets hot. We're going to pop our axle out of the way and pull the oil pan and check the rod bearings to see if we've got any noticeable damage or any larger than stock clearances between the bearings and the crankshaft journal on rod 1, 2. I'm gonna check them all while we're in there. Hopefully it's something else, but I'll let you be the judge of it. I'll go ahead and rev it up now. It should be up to temperature and should be knocking or whatever noise we're hearing. Guys, that really sounds like a rod knock to me, but hopefully it's not. So let's go ahead and get the truck up in the air, drain that oil, and get the oil pan off. I wasn't kidding, guys. This oil is really dark. I mean, it looks like it came out of a diesel. And yeah, it's got quite the smell to it. Maybe they put thick diesel oil in it to try to mask a knocking noise. Who knows? But it's definitely not been changed in a while. So we'll let this drain out. And we'll go ahead and pop the axle and get this pan off of here and see if there's any carnage inside this engine. This oil is also, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's fuel diluted. I can definitely smell gas. And the way it's sitting right there, maybe they really flooded this thing bad, and I don't know. Not a good sign, though. All right, so confession, I've never removed a rear axle from a Sambar. I'm not exactly sure the procedure because the factory service manual that's available is really shoddy, to say the least. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and remove this cover, remove the shock absorber, which looks like it might be leaking. Same way we would for doing the timing belt water pump, because we are going to do that later on. And I think then we will have enough room in this trailing arm to move it. Not sure, we might have to disconnect the bolts here so we can pop it out of the transmission just enough to get it over the stub shaft and swing it back and secure it out of our way. So we got the splash out of the way. There's 3 10mm headed bolts, well, 2 bolts and 1 nut. And we got the strut out of the way, or the shock, 17 up here, then 14 bolt and nut down here. We do have quite a bit of wiggle room in here. We might be able to just pop it out and swing it out of the way. We're gonna remove this bar here. That's a 14 on either side. Looks like we've got a new thermostat housing on this truck. So let's go ahead and try to get this axle out. All right, guys, so we've got the axle out of the way. All we had to do is put a pry bar on either side of the axle and pop it out of the transmission off of the stub shaft, swing it out of the way, and have it zip tied on this trailing arm. So now we have full access to remove our oil pan. 10mm headed bolts all the way around the perimeter. All right, driven our oil pan cutter in here. Got a crack started. We'll go ahead and drive this on around and pop this pan off of here. All right, guys, so we got the oil pan off, and it's not looking great in here. There is definitely an accumulation of sludge and schmoo in here. And it is reactive to a magnet, so we do have ferrous material in here, so that's not a good sign, but it's also kind of validifying what I thought, which was we have a rod bearing issue. So yeah, let me see if I can do this one-handed. I don't have my tripod on me right now, but see if this, yep, you see it's the magnet's pulling it. It's not gravity. It's not just dripping. We'll try it again. But it is attracted to that magnet. It's jumping from my finger to the magnet. There's definitely ferrous schmoo in the oil pan. So not great for this Sambar owner. But hopefully it's done minimal damage. We can get away with just putting a set of bearings in it. All right, guys. So the oil pan, pickup, windage tray, all that's off. And cylinder number 4 has a little bit of slop in it. Cylinder 3 is tight. 2 is tight. And, well, 4 I think is tight. I think I was feeling lateral movement. No, it's got a little bit of. And here is number 1. I don't know if you can hear that rattling or not. Definitely some slop there. Sorry about the camera angle and all, but there's only so much room to film in these tiny little trucks. But yeah, that good. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the bearing cap off of cylinder 1 and take a look at those bearings and take a look at that journal to see how scored up it is. But we definitely got some rod bearing issues going on with this truck. All right, let's see if we can take a look at the bearings on cylinder 1. So it hasn't spun, but we'll clean it up and take a look at it. So there is our rod bearing for cylinder 1. Definitely got some wear, irregular wear, and definitely got some grooves in it. I haven't checked the journal, but as long as the journal is smooth and doesn't have any burrs or anything in it, we can probably get away with just putting a new set of standard sized rod bearings in this engine and some good break-in engine oil and be all right. But if we've really ate into the journals on the crankshaft, probably gonna need to pull this engine out and have the crankshaft polished. And if we're doing that, might as well re-ring the pistons and just do a full rebuild. So and dig a little bit deeper and see what we find. All right, guys, so looking at our rod journal on the crankshaft, I know it looks streaky, but that's where I'm smudging the oil. Pretty sure we are good. I don't feel anything. My fingernail's not catching any grooves. I think we might be able to get away with putting a set of bearings in this truck and doing a flush, because there's a lot of crap in here. We need to really flush the metal particulates out of the oil. Whoever had the truck just did not do regular oil changes. So it looks like what was happening here, all of the junk suspended in the oil from irregular oil changes, bypassing that oil filter, got in here, started prematurely wearing these bearings, and that's why we only had a knock at higher RPM when it was up to temperature. After everything thermally expanded, that little bit of wear from those bearings was enough to cause a slight knocking just due to the oil gap or the clearance between the bearing being greater after it had worn down. So we should be able to flush this out, clean out the bottom side of the engine block here, get the trapped junk out of here, and put a new set of bearings in here. Have not checked the rest. I will check the rest. But number 1 was our loudest one and our loosest one, just like wiggling by hand. So unless we have some big surprises in 2, 3, and 4, we should just be able to put a standard set of bearings back in this truck. Some good break-in oil, change the oil frequently, get everything flushed out, and be good to roll. All right, guys, so I've got the truck partially back together, meaning, well, it's back together, but of course things aren't torqued to spec, nor sealed, etc. This video was kind of rushed. Sorry about that. This customer has been on me for a couple of days now to get him a diagnosis on the engine, and I really wanted to get that knocked out. So we do know, as you saw, cylinder 1 has a bad rod bearing, bad wear on it. I'll put up pictures now of 1, 2, 3, and 4 to compare. 2, 3, and 4 were fine. There wasn't anything abnormal. Looked like perfectly normal wear for the kilometers on this truck. 1 is our issue. Again, looking at the journal on the crankshaft, I don't think we'd have any issue putting a new set of standard rod bearings in the truck, some break-in oil, and driving it gingerly, and you know, flushing out the oil pan and the stuff we can get out of the block to make sure that it doesn't circulate back through and cause issues with the new bearings. This is a project he has got to run around his own property for the most part, a little bit of road usage. It's not going to dictate pulling the engine and doing a full rebuild, mainly because he hasn't even gotten the truck yet. He's put a lot of time and money into this truck and hasn't gotten it yet, hasn't even got to see it in person yet. I think he bought it back October, and it just got here to the U.S. late January. It just got to me. I've had it longer than he's had it because he hasn't seen it in person yet. So we talked back and forth, throwing the bearings in it. Hopefully that'll be a good fix for now without having to go through and pull the engine and do a full rebuild and re-ring the pistons and, you know, have the crankshaft polished and do main bearings and rod bearings and have the heads redone. He's not interested in putting that kind of money in the truck. I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. I would slap a set of bearings in it and see how it worked myself if it was my truck. So that's what we're going to do. Again, sorry for this video being so broken up and not showing you what I was doing as I did it, but I was in a rush to get this thing pulled apart and see what we needed. We're trying to get a list of everything we need for Amayama or Japan parts. I can't remember where he's ordering from, so you can order them and have them shipped to me. Probably be about 2 weeks, so we wanted to get on it as soon as possible to get them in the mail, headed to us, so we can get this truck back together and to this guy so he can finally drive his little K truck. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one, and we will have more on this truck, I'm sure, in the future. We still got to do time belt, water pump, all that good stuff, cam crank seals, do those bearings, reseal the oil pan. So probably more videos to come on this little truck, and I might be in the market again to buy my 3rd Sambar myself. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.